Wednesday night, 7 p.m., Big Ten Plus. Maryland plays host to Mount St. Mary's. It'll be an interesting game for a couple of reasons. First of all, Mount St. Mary's, solid program, if not good program, coming off a year where they made a run to the tournament. 1-3 to start this season. However, they did cause Cincinnati some serious problems. Ultimately lost by 17 points, but that was a game. St. Mary's jumped on them early and led for a large stretch of that game. So we've seen them hold up well against Power Five competition. In steps a Maryland team coming off an emotional victory with Buzz Williams' locker room speeches going viral, and now without Farel Payne for who knows how long after that tragic looking injury. Excuse me. Matt Moderno's here to help us sort through all of this. Let's start with the obvious. Where is this team at emotionally following the win over Marquette without Farel Payne for who knows how long?
I can't imagine that they're not a little bit down just because we still don't know. I mean, they may know. We've mentioned this on a previous preview for a Maryland game, but it's the same situation for Buzz Williams. He's doing the whole I can't talk about player health because of HIPAA and whatnot, which is just wild to me. But so we don't even know what the status is for Farrell Payne. You'd think when a player has an injury like that, you'd just want to tell your fans like, "Hey, he's alive at the very least," and signs of life would be appreciated. So he could be out for a while. Maybe it's not that serious, and they're not that down about it. It's just hard to know. But it just when you get so up for a game like Marquette, it's hard to maybe not like crash back down here a little bit. This is their last game before they go out to Vegas for Players Era, so this could be kind of like a trap game a little bit here. Like I don't know that I think Mount St. Mary's can win this game necessarily, but just given what they did with Cincinnati, I wouldn't overlook them. And if you're Mount, that's kind of what you're hoping from this Maryland team is that maybe they look a little past you.
The trap spot for sure. We have a Maryland Marquette recap up on the channel, so I don't want to be overly redundant with this. People can go watch that. But I watched that game in full. I actually picked Maryland to win that game. It's respectfully to the Terps, it was largely dependent on my beliefs on what Marquette is not, more so
Sure.
than what Maryland is.
Yeah.
What did you think from that game that we can pull out? What is sustainable for Maryland going forward?
I don't know. This is maybe the flip side of that is what I'm really most interested in seeing if they can fix is you can't like get outshot by 21 attempts and win many basketball games. And this Mount team has been a good rebounding team so far. Like they've been relatively even with their their better caliber opponents. So if Maryland can't figure out who rebounds the ball when Farrell Payne is out, this is tough. I think they need everybody to rebound. Like gang rebounding is going to have to be a thing here. They need the guards to get out and just grab and go to create some offense. So can Darius Adams continue to be the aggressive Darius Adams and not maybe the more tentative one we've seen in a couple spots like the Georgetown game where there were more physical guards? Like Mount St. Mary's has basically a linebacker at point guard in Xavier Lipscomb. He's like 23 years old at this point in his sixth year of college basketball. And he's a dude. Like he's gonna give someone like Adams everything he can handle defensively. So I just want to see the poise and can they keep getting to the free throw line and try to create some easy looks here. They also shot well against Marquette, which has not happened this season. So I don't know. It just needs some threes to go down, Greg. Like I'm wishing and praying here that they can keep that up.
Yeah, what's your gut feel on that? 36% from Marquette. You made enough to get the job done. Isaiah Watts hit some huge ones, and
Yeah.
Diggy Coit was just on fire. So you got at least two guys that have demonstrated an ability to have a hot shooting night. But Adams' struggles seem like they might be here to stay. I'm not saying
Yeah.
he's an 11% shooter, but are you expecting much of a resurgence there?
I mean, he has to regress to the mean here a little bit, but I still feel like that maybe gets him to like 28%. I don't think this is a guy that's going to suddenly find a way to jump into the 30s. He was sub 30 as a high school player last year too, so I think that's probably, the level that the water rises to with him. But hey, just a few more going down to get you into the 20s would be a welcome thing for them. Can Elijah Saunders step out and hit a couple? Can Andre Mills keep hitting a couple? This is the only game he hasn't hit a three, this Marquette game. He got into a little foul trouble. I think he's probably somebody that could be really big in this game because I don't know who the Mount has that matches him athletically, and I think that would be a tough matchup for anybody on their team just from the athleticism perspective. So I think Mills having 3 for 6 kind of 3-point game, slash into the basket a few times here and there would be pretty big for Maryland.
Adam's shooting is interesting because, as you mentioned, he doesn't have a build reputation as a shooter really at any level coming up, but he has always been a taker, which,
Yeah.
sometimes can be a problem, right? But in a Buzz Williams system, it's not because you just want to get the ball on the rim and let your big guys go to work. I think that's going to be interesting to monitor where they miss Payne, right? Obviously, you miss just what Payne brings, but do you still want Darius Adams shooting four threes a game without your best offensive rebounder down there? I don't know. I think they need him to keep that volume, almost to open up driving lanes for him where he's
Mhm.
more effective. But it'd be just kind of interesting to see if there's any change to his game without Payne.
Along those lines too, and Maryland's one of their radio broadcasters, Chris Nocky, who's been here forever, had an amazing line I thought about Buzz Williams and said, if you ask Buzz what time it is, he'll explain to you how to build a clock. And I thought that was just like the most fitting way to talk about how he talks about basketball. And when people ask him about the rebounding, he does like a 5-minute monologue about all the different drills they do, the percentages, the math behind it, and basically he said this is like the worst rebounding team he's had, and I think the numbers bear that out so far. And just looking at that Marquette game, that's not some physically imposing. It's not Houston or somebody you expect to pummel you on the boards or Florida. Like Maryland got housed under the basket in that one, and that's not going to work for this team. So I think a vintage Buzz Williams team, you could just let Adams chuck away, but they've got a lot less margin here without Payne, especially, and just this group in general. Like that, we still don't know if George Turkson will be back, one of their other forwards. So if it's Colin Metcalf, who they've been reluctant to play, or freshman Alex Alston, who hasn't, I don't, had more than 2 rebounds in a game yet so far in his short career, like they might be in a little bit of trouble here again, unless the guards can kind of step up in this one.
What's the latest on Solomon Washington?
I'm just gonna do the shrug emoji, and
That's
again,
for every player. We get no updates.
I can't talk about it. I've got to be the last bastion of privacy in this country and protect my players, and I owe it to their families. And it's a soliloquy every time about HIPAA. So we don't know. He's out of the boot, which is good. I feel like that has to be a sign. I've been a little tough on the Under Armour, our benefactor here in a lot of things, but it says something about your shoes if every player on your team somehow has an ankle injury that lasts them like 3 months. Like, what are we doing here from an ankle support perspective? So, Washington's still presumably out for this game. Miles Rice, we don't know. He was out of the boot and played against Georgetown and has been back in the boot since then. So, but then he's like at football games, not in a boot. So, I just really don't know what we're doing here, Greg. I'm confused in all respects with this team.
See, this is a Sleepers Media staple. We endorse this. We love mysterious boots in November.
Yeah.
This is our running
Un
fuels to just staples. It's great.
Under Armour branded boots are going to be
Yeah.
the next thing out here.
Keep everybody confused. I
Mhm.
endorse and that's the Mike Woodson and Miles Rice. He
Yeah.
learned this. Umar Ballo pulled this trick a year ago.
Yeah.
This is the oldest play in the book. On a serious note, Steph Curry just left Under Armour. I don't know. Maybe you're onto something here. We'll see. But two more Maryland-based questions. Then we can go a little more X's and O's on Mount St. Mary's. You did text me a little bit on the side with at least a little bit of intel on what you've heard with Farel Payne. Can you share that with the watchers?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get anything real and see how concrete it is. I think there's some folks program adjacent that feel like maybe it's not as bad as you would have expected it to be. I asked a friend who's an orthopedist about this, who had originally said a human groin is not designed to do that when he saw the pain injury. But apparently, Farrell Payne was out walking around at a Maryland volleyball game since then. So, like, I don't know how that's possible. He's been like tweeting and Instagramming up a storm so far. So, it seems like he's in good spirits at the very least. So, I think maybe they avoided catastrophe here, but I don't see any way where he's not out like multiple weeks.
Yeah.
even best case scenario. So we'll see what that looks like, I guess.
Yeah, get him through the holidays. But it's great to hear, at minimum, it's great to hear he's in good spirits. Just a gruesome, horrific looking injury. And I think, if you watched the telecast of this, John Fanta was calling it.
Mm.
Thought Fanta did a great job sort of being respectful in the moment of all that was going on. But Farrell was screaming in pain. And like for a dude as big and tough as Farrell Payne to have that type of reaction, you just feared the worst. So it's great to hear it may not be the worst, even if it's slim hope that it may not be the worst. I think that's a very obviously good outcome, and best wishes to Farrell because he's one of the most fun players to watch in the front court in the entire country. Lastly, before we pivot to Mount St. Mary's, I'm just curious on a personal level from you. Are you enjoying the Buzz Williams experience through 4 games?
Uh, it's interesting. I go back to that clock time comment because it is just there's a lot of pontificating, and I think it would be a much more charming and folksy if this team was undefeated right now and had slapped Georgetown around by 20 points. It's still okay right now. We'll see how cute everybody thinks if they like lose to Nebraska by 20 in the middle of February or something like that. But for right now, we're okay. I think there's been a couple whiffs on the recruiting trail recently. I think most Maryland fans kind of accepted that like this would be the building year here a little bit. That if anything happens, it's house money essentially. So there was some patience. I think he was getting out of the gate here, especially with the injuries. He's getting a little bit of a pass, but. This Baba Lodatoon recruitment does not look like it's going to go Maryland's way. I think he's destined for Arkansas here. I think that there might be like some. This is a tough Maryland fan base, right? Like basically
Yeah.
ran Mark Turgeon out of town. Everybody hates Kevin Willard. He's public enemy number one right now. Like Buzz could have used a good start here or a big recruiting win to build some hope for next year, and it's just not really kind of working out Maryland right now. So I think hopefully they can get some of these senior guys back here and just kind of steady the ship enough to buy him a little more grace early on.
Interesting. All right. Thanks for that. Yeah, it's very early. Totally hear you on the recruiting trail. And look, just bluntly, Buzz Williams is a guy that has burned a lot of bridges in a lot of places. That's even more so than Willard, like reputation wise. There's a lot of people on record that don't love Buzz Williams at previous places. So it was a very interesting fit when the hire came out. It's like, well, that's a fan base that's really tough on their own. That's a guy that is notoriously not exactly a great fit for fan bases that are really tough on their own. I'll say this for them to win that game at Marquette after Payne goes down says something from an
Yeah, it took
outsider's
stones.
perspective, even if it's just this specific team's level of buy-in with Buzz. I was kind of laughing at the post-game videos, but he deserves to have a little early, like we're in this together moment. And I don't know, he's
They're
got my attention at minimum.
they're super locked in on him, Greg. Like that's genuine. Like you get that vibe, and it's like Kool-Aid has been chugged at this point from
Yeah.
players. Like Andre Mills is like raving about Buzz the man and the person and lifelong friendship and bonds. Like that's cool to see, and I think they really did do that for their coach and for Farel Payne, and they're gonna need to keep winning those kind of games the rest of the way here.
Yeah. All right. To Mount St. Mary's quickly. Look at the profile of this team. Again, they were good last year, made the NCAA tournament. They had 7 outbound transfers, many of whom were key pieces on this team last year. They return 3 rotation guys. Really, Lipscomb is the only big mainstay that has played big minutes in the past at Mount St. Mary's. As you mentioned, 6th-year guy, medical year that he is taking this year. So one of the oldest players in college basketball. Around him, a bunch of transfers. They do have a couple high major level guys. Florida State transfer Anastasios Rosakeas. I hope I'm saying that
Yeah,
correctly.
pretty good.
But how is Mount St. Mary's going to approach this game? What are they going to try and do?
They're going to try to neutralize Maryland on the boards here and hit enough threes to keep things interesting. They're shooting low 30s from three, but holding opponents to basically mid 20s. So they're trying to get an advantage there. They're basically even for the year despite playing some good teams on the board. So they're going to be big and physical. Luke McKeldin, their center, is a dude that I think can bang around and hang in with the replacement bigs of Maryland here pretty well. So we'll see what that looks like. Mentioned Xavier Lipscomb, just like one of the smartest kids you'll ever talk to about basketball, and just also nice but like mean on the court. So like the best combo there. So I'm interested. The one thing they do is they turn the ball over a lot. Like they have twice as many turnovers as they've forced so far this year, and they're not scoring off the turnovers they get. So I think that makes a tough matchup for them against the Maryland team that the ball security hasn't been great, but I think in general, if you get a Miles Rice back, it really helps. So you almost just need free points against the Maryland team that's gonna play pretty tough perimeter defense for them. So unless Mount has like a hot shooting night, I think this is going to be one of those ones where, similar to the Cincinnati game, Maryland can kind of just slowly pull away here. But there's probably not enough there. But to their credit, Mount St. Mary's been hurt a lot in the backcourt. A guy like Arlandis Keys can light it up if he gets hot. He's barely played so far this year, so he's a dude that if he came in and he hits four threes in the first half, Maryland fans like shouldn't be totally shocked by a guy like that kind of pulling something out.
Yeah, they got dudes, is what I would say. They're not a team you can just completely sneeze at on the
Yeah.
schedule. Like if you don't take care of your business, they will hang around, as evidenced by the Cincinnati game. They were up six in that game at halftime. They got outscored 42 to 19 in the second half, end up losing by 17. To me, that's probably the worst case scenario for Maryland here. And the recipe for that to me was pretty on full display. It was Xavier Lipscomb holding up well. He had 14, 8, and 4 against some pretty talented Cincinnati guards in that game.
Mhm.
And then they got to make shots. They shot 37% from three in that game, had four different guys hit two threes. If you can do that, then I do think you could look up at a Farel Painless Maryland team and feel like they're in the game 20 minutes into it. But yeah, over the course of 40 minutes, Maryland should be able to assert their physical dominance. The guards should be able to get to Lipscomb a little bit and pull away, would be my guess. This is normally the part of the program where we go to Ken Palm for a game prediction, but it seems like the entire internet is down today. Can't even get kenpalm.com to load. So I don't know what the line will be for this game. Do you want to give me a prediction?
According to Matt Palm, it's Maryland by 24.
That'll do. Yeah, isn't you guys have won your buy games by like 20s this year, right?
It's right around that mark. It's whatever the actual Ken Palm line is. Maryland scores 3 points shy of that every time. So I think whatever that line comes out to be for people watching this, I would take Mount St. Mary's given the points and assume Maryland will win outright though.
Give me Maryland by 21. And
Okay.
I think it will play out like Cincinnati, where it's kind of maybe up like four at half and everyone's freaking out, and then you
Hmm.
just dominate the second half.
I'll take that. Take any win we can get at this point for this program.
Wins are good. Subscribe to the Sleepers channel. Matt's doing a bunch of great stuff for us on previews and recaps. He's also got our mid-major game of the week. Who are you doing for that this week?
It's gonna be UMBC at GW. Got two coaches from each staff on to give us some insight and I think cool stuff. So if people want to learn a little bit more about the scout for a team like that, I think they gave us some pretty good insight.
It's awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you to those of you watching at home. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes.